You're listening to
I Don't Do Sci-Fi.
Episode 2. Ripped up, wiped out, battered, shattered, creamed and reamed.
Hello and welcome to our podcast, I Don't Do Sci-Fi. I'm Rebecca Wray and with me are John Isles.
Hello.
And Dani Ray.
Hi.
Last time we showed Dani the BBC series Star Cops, which to our delights Dani enjoyed. This episode we're going to focus on two cult American films from the 70s, which are focused on future sports. The first film is Death Race 2000. After the world crash of 1979, civil unrest and economic ruin saw America collapse into a totalitarian regime under martial law. To help pacify the population, a transcontinental race is held which sees drivers competing to race from the east coast to the west coast of America, earning points by running over pedestrians along the way. The reigning champion is Frankenstein, played by David Carradine. He's a black-clad, masked man of mystery whose body is said to be hideously mutilated by a career of terrible race crashes. Little does Frankenstein realise that this year his navigator is a saboteur working for the anti-race resistance. Death Race 2000 was directed by Paul Bartel and produced by Roger Corman of New World Pictures, a maverick who had built a reputation for spinning high profits from low-budget movies. Surely enough, the spectacle of Death Race 2000 performed well at the box office. However, its depictions of gruesome, if cartoonish, ultra-violence caused a storm of controversy among many critics. The movie went on to make almost as much money from the era of video rentals as it had at the box office. Over time, a cult following built around the film, spawning many imitative violent racing movies and computer games right up to the present day.
So with the introductions done, we're going to travel back in time a few days and listen to some moments from Dani and Rebecca watching Death Race 2000. Let's hear how it went.
So I'm with Dani today and we're going to be watching two films together. Two films Dan's not seen. The first one is Death Race 2000. What do you think Death Race is about, Dan?
That is essentially, in my head, it's Battle Royale and Mad Max have had a baby, and that's the film.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it predates both of those films.
I don't care if it predates it.
Okay, so it's like a reverse birth.
Yep.
Okay, so have you heard of them before, either of these?
Yeah, so it turns out I thought I'd seen the remake of Death Race with Jason Statham, but my brain told me it was the film with Steve Austin, the wrestler. Turns out it was The Condemned is what I was thinking of.
Oh, right. I don't know that.
But it's a similar premise that a lot of people essentially kill to win.
So do you think you're going to like Death Race 2000? Death
Race, yes. I do think that one I will like.
Oh, you like racing, don't you?
Yeah, I watch Top Gear.
But you watch, what's the race you watch?
I follow Formula 1.
That's it.
I always played racing games as a kid.
Yes, you did.
So, yeah, that's my jam.
Okay, so shall we get started?
Yes.
As the movie gets underway, Dani seems enthusiastic, even complimenting the rudimentary visual effects shots.
More drawings, that's quite cool.
The background.
Yeah.
But then we get a closer look at the race commentator's microphone and Dani goes all... Dani.
I know it's meant to be a microphone.
No, Dan.
It looks like a sex toy.
See, I didn't even occur to me that, and as soon as you said, you know what it looks like, I'm like, oh no, damn it. You're terrible. And fixates on it for the rest of the film.
Here she is.
The racers begin to arrive.
Swastika sweetheart, Matilda the Hun from Milwaukee, and her lovable Nazi navigator, Herman the German Fox.
Your face.
I'm gonna say it. I fucking love the alliteration, the punnage. It's so bad, I love it.
And then a familiar face shows up.
Here he comes, Machine Gun Joe, loved by thousands, hated by millions.
That's Stallone.
Yeah.
Nice.
One of his very first film roles.
That wasn't
Keep
porn.
those Frankenstein...
Sylvester Stallone then leaves Danny's mouth agape in horror as he tries to machine gun the jeering spectators.
Frankenstein the
Were you
legend.
just like trying to kill the audience then?
Indestructible.
Yeah.
Sole survivor of the Titan.
Perhaps he's not the good guy hero in this one. Dani is left momentarily perplexed, but the array of crazy cars and drivers is strongly reminding Dani of something from her childhood.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm getting Wacky Races feel for this.
Yeah, the crazy cars.
Yeah.
And everyone's got a theme.
Yeah.
Has Dani correctly guessed that Frankenstein isn't quite the monster beneath the mask that we've been led to believe?
You want to see?
Yes, because you're probably not going to be as ugly as they're making out.
Remember,
Yep, it seems that she has.
Got him
what do you
one.
expect? Another pretty face?
Yeah. If they have the technology to be able to do what they did I've lost my cranium, I've lost an eye, but I can still say, I've had limb transplants. I'm
Got a new
pretty
hand.
I'm pretty sure they'd have a fantastic plastic surgeon at that point as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Guessed it in one. Yeah.
Well done. Dani now thinks she's got the whole plot of this film sussed out. Or has she?
All right.
Dani's smugness turns to stunned horror as the racers begin killing pedestrians for points.
Too bad the guy was only 38. Just 2 years older, he'd have been worth 3 times the points. Machine Gun Joe has splattered
Your
the
face.
scoreboard first.
Dani's in absolute shock right now.
So the whole point is that they kill people.
Yeah.
I thought it was like death races in like race to the death, not
Oh, you
race to
misunderstood.
not race to the murder.
Oh, you misunderstood.
I totally misunderstood, but I fucking love that I did.
So you didn't realise that they were hitting pedestrians
No.
to get points?
No.
Your face, though. Dan was in absolute shock when that guy got hit.
Because I was like thinking, he was avoidable. He could have been drove around. That'd have been fine. The fact that none of his other workmates were like, mate,
Run.
fucking one of the death races is coming. No. Every man for themselves.
Adjusting to this new ultra-violent realisation, Dani begins to encourage the death racers to hit their targets.
Seriously, you can't hit this bloke? He's really not hard to hit. You can just go for him. Go for his legs. Why do you keep going for a stupid bit of material?
But wait a moment, how does anybody even know these deaths are happening at all?
So, are there just cameras everywhere?
How do they know? How do they know a builder got hit or a random dude in the woods?
Yeah.
Because he was in the...
Yeah.
It was like in a field or a
Yeah.
wood.
I'm really confused by that one.
Hospital nurses line up elderly patients in the road as the racers approach. Dani's face is a picture once again.
Euthanasia Day at the geriatrics hospital.
Fuck me. Euthanasia day. I'm sorry, if I wanted to die, I don't think I want to die by being run over by fucking, no, fuck that. That's not euthanasia, that's just full on fucking murder. That's torture, that's murder torture.
I don't know, the old people are happy.
Fuck me. Masochists is what they are.
But Frankenstein runs over the hospital staff instead of their patients, much to Dani's satisfaction.
Surely this should be easy. Surely this should be 100 points. It should be like 2 points. No, I'm with him on that. Kill all the fucking staff members. Because what fucking staff member would think, do you know what? It's Euthanasia Day. I can kill you with some nice drugs so you feel, out of pain and comfortable. Or what I can do is I can force you to sit in a chair and get run over by a car. No, good on him. Good on him for getting the staff who are meant to be caring professionals.
Thanks for that.
The Resistance begin their anti-race broadcast, and Dani suddenly realises that she has seen the Resistance set with its enormous US flag in a warehouse somewhere else before.
We declare war upon the bipartisan party, on Mr. President, and on the...
Oh my god.
What?
Green Day fucking loved this film. They must have done.
What?
American Idiot music video. They're in a warehouse with a flag behind them, and then it goes to paint and it goes all green and shit like that. It's this. It's this.
Ooh. So yeah, there must be fans.
It was a very political song, but it's this.
Oh my god. Wow, Dan. You picked it up.
Mind blown.
I didn't even I didn't pick up on that.
Mind blown.
But you're the Green Day fan.
Yeah, mind blown. That
Definitely.
music video is so much cooler now.
The bizarrely spacious and empty hotel rooms betray the limited budget of the movie.
Trust you.
A very odd room.
Really, just don't want to.
What's odd about it, Dan?
What's odd about it is obviously not a hotel or anything like that. They've obviously just got some sort of like big sports hall type thing, put a carpet in, some furniture sparsely, and gone, yeah,
That'll do.
the double door fire exit will be right in the corner.
It'll be right. It's probably not warm either.
It's gonna be absolutely fucking freezing. Fluorescent lighting over your head. Where's the fucking switch? Nowhere near where your bed is. Even though there's a room where there's nothing there, you'll walk into the shit that you're not meant to walk into.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, because if the light switch is the other end of the room, you turn it off and it's black. How are you going to find the bed again?
Yeah.
Some dodgy editing sees Frankenstein's mask weirdly reappear between shots.
It is. It's a miracle he's still alive.
Do you like to dance?
Why has he got that mask back on? What the... What? I've taken my mask off and now put it back on again. I know.
Did he take it off?
He took it off when he was sat on the chair. I'm not being funny. It's got lots of BDSM vibes as this film.
You know, I hadn't noticed before, but you know the fangirl?
Yeah.
You noticed the collar, the choke around
The
the neck?
choker was great because it was a bit of leather and it was a zip.
Zip. Yeah, I hadn't noticed before.
Yeah, no, I noticed straight away. I was like,
I thought it was just a stripe, but seeing again,
Nah, it's a zip.
it's a zip because she's a fan. Because he's got zips.
Noticed
I
straight
like
away.
that. The abundance of zips and leather has caused Dani to start seeing BDSM imagery everywhere.
You're all just making excuses for poor driving.
Poor driving. Listen, honey, Matilda.
You can't tell me that wasn't a sexual thing then. Right. He's wearing a gimp mask and he gets something very long and phallic looking and slowly inserts it into his mouth. Yeah. You're telling me there's no smut in this? Sorry. No. Dirty bastards who
Nobody
made
could
this.
afford my navigation.
Dirty bastard.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
It's all just sex.
Well, that's probably why they bloody cast Stallone, because he were like, well, we'll get a porn star in.
Dani enjoys the rest of the movie. That is, until the futuristic music of the finish line makes her ears bleed.
That was horrid!
Yeah, I liked it.
That sounded like me trying to play. It was like someone just went, no, 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 done.
Well, the mid-70s was a very experimental period. Electronic music was pretty new, so...
Yeah, I'm good for that, but I'm also not good for, I'm just gonna smash the keyboard and hope nice sounds come out. That's never worked in life. Never.
Still recovering from the music, the film's abrupt conclusion leaves Dani frowning in dissatisfaction. Uh-oh. Time to collect some final thoughts. And that was Death Race 2000. What did you think, Dan?
It was good until the fucking last 10 minutes, then it was like, what the fuck's this?
Why? What's wrong?
It was just full steam ahead, and then it's like, I've killed the president, now I'm president, and we're abolishing violence, but now I'm gonna kill somebody as I leave. What? Why? I was really enjoying it, but you know that ending ruined it.
Oh.
Ending ruined it for me.
Ending ruined it.
Ending full on ruined it.
Yes.
Stallone said it's bullshit.
The rest of the film, you like that?
I enjoyed the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Last 10 minutes, garbage. So, to start off the discussion, I'm going to ask a question. Why did you choose Death Race 2000 and subject me to that?
Well, because, Dani, you said you like dystopia films, and, well, this is a very much a dystopic future.
Definitely.
It's also set in the far-flung future of the year 2000.
Very far-flung.
And, well, it's got Stallone in it. Stallone's cool. You like Stallone?
I'll give you
I
that.
mean, our family do. We've always watched Stallone films. And...
Not all of his films, though.
No, but we watched a lot of those kind of action
Yeah.
films. Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Van Damme, Statham. I don't know, I just thought Death Race 2000 would be... I just found it interesting how you got a running theme of these films where they show what the future's going to be like with sports, and it's always really violent and gory and aggressive. I mean, we read The Running Man 2 years ago, was it, for book club?
2 years ago.
Which was another contender I was thinking of choosing because they kind of go together to me.
It's a future sport, isn't it?
Yes.
But also, I'd watched that after we read the book anyway, so that was a good thing you didn't choose it.
I mean, because there are other films, like, in fact, there is a film John found called Future sports.
Yes, that was one of my initial thoughts when we said, "Oh, we're doing future sports."
Oh,
I
thought we were doing the actual film?
Well,
it was like a TV film.
It was a TV movie from 1998, which we can go into later, or we can talk about it.
Well, I think we'll talk about it now because there's not much to say. But
that's
when
fine.
I googled it and I looked at Google Images, it was like, of course it looks like that. It looks exactly what I expected it to look like. It looks like some Mad Max wannabe where people have got grills on their faces and punk hairdos.
It's actually closer to Rollerball, which we'll be discussing later. Dean Cain, who I did enjoy as Superman, is in it, but now he's consigned to doing Christmas movies.
With dogs.
And Wesley Snipes is in it with a dreadful Caribbean accent. I know, slumming it in TV land. And whoever wins this game of future sport decides the fate of Hawaii gaining independence from North America.
Sounds like Space Jam.
Yeah, I suppose it could be.
I didn't like Space Jam.
But it's not a very, very good film. And there's very little
TV
sport
film.
in
We
it.
should emphasise it's TV film.
Some TV films are good.
Yeah. I liked Sabrina, the Teenage Witch's teenage film.
Teenage film.
Yeah.
TV film. Yes, I liked the Sabrina TV films because she did 3. Well, they did 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I liked all of them.
But future sport is very cheap looking and there's very little sport in it.
But I just like the idea of looking at dystopic futures that seem to focus on sports because it's also a common theme in video games. In fact, there's loads of video games based off of Death Race and Rollerball. Does that answer your question, Dani?
Sure. Oh, yeah, go for it.
So what did you think of Death Race 2000?
I liked 90% of it.
90% of it.
90% of it. The ending was rushed. It was not written very well. It was a pile of shit. And it didn't make any sense. It was just like, okay, all right. Oh, that's happened now. And I just felt like they could have put up a few more hints. They're a bit more obvious. I mean, I did kind of guess because I said to you I'd guessed that. I can't remember his name.
Frankenstein was
actually a rebel, but in his own way a rebel, not with a team of resistance rebels. He was just like, I'm an independent rebel. And I guessed some of the other things. Like I guessed his face was absolutely fine.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I got that in one. I don't know why I said that because that was just me going, yeah, look at me, I'm really good at guessing. Just big myself up. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was just the end. The end just felt a bit flat. I think it was just like it'd been
just suddenly happened.
Yeah,
and
it just kind of was like it was like we'd gone from like 0 to 100 very quickly for the entirety of the film, and then came to a sudden stop, and it was like, oh, all right, oh, it's done. Okay.
Well, it just made no sense, like, because you pointed out when the leader of the Resistance's granddaughter, Annie, was shot. She shot her.
Yeah.
And then suddenly in another scene, a scene later, we're seeing Annie running down and checking on Frankenstein. It's like, making sure he's okay. It's like, oh, we thought you were shot. I mean, your grandmother was crying her eyes out because she thought you're dead. So, oh, you're okay then, fine.
And then the next scene is, and they've just got married. They're going to drive off. And then that reporter, well, not reporter, but like the journalisty kind of guy. Like, we want more, we want more. Is there going to be more? And he's like, fuck you. I'm just going to run you over and kill you. Like, it just didn't make any sense.
The running over did it. When they're like, we're banning it all because it's bad, but we're going to run you over.
Like, it was just like, a hypocrite much? Yeah.
There's a running theme in your comments, wasn't there, Dan?
Was there?
Yes, you kept commenting on how smutty this film was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so smutty.
Yeah, she says the film's creators must have, a dirty mind.
They were dirty-minded. I say dirty-minded, like as if I care.
Like the casual nudity in the massage or other things?
That didn't bother me. That's fine. Whatevs. It's the 70s for you. All I've got to say is this much. It was BDSM central. That's what it was.
Frankenstein with his leather?
Yeah, his gimp mask that he took off, then it came back on again. And it was just like, hold on a second, what's going on here? He had that off, he took it off, he put it on the floor, he's walked across the room into this weird bedroom, weird bedroom, and then all of a sudden he turns around and it's back on again. All right then.
He never takes the glove off for his mechanical hand.
Yeah, and that's
That is the stupidest plot I've ever heard in my life. I won't take my hand, blah, blah, blah. And then takes the glove off and there, look, because I've got a grenade ready. Fuck off. You don't need it in your hand 24/7. Have it on your person, sure. You don't need it in your hand because you still have to take your glove off to activate it, to throw it. What the actual fuck?
I know, I couldn't get mad. Plus, how did he, it's amazing he actually managed to get through sex more than once with it, having a grenade for a hand.
Well,
it obviously wasn't activated. Perhaps it was a pin or something.
Well, I assume it's a pin, but still,
Yeah, but he's not got that. He's got that hand out of action anyway, hasn't he? So I mean,
So, Dan, which characters did you like in the film?
I did like Frankenstein, even though I didn't like the whole, I've got a grenade in my hand. He was just a bit odd in general. I'm going to say I don't know her name. I just enjoyed the one who was always like, who's a dear friend of mine. I liked her. Only for saying that for every single person she ever mentioned. I just loved her for that because it kind of gave me Hunger Game vibes with the Effie, that's it.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of her name then. I was just thinking the actress's name. But yeah, it just made me think of her kind of vibes and I was just like, I really like it. It's just like
exactly. She was perfect for that.
Yeah.
That role.
I didn't care for the Resistance lady. I don't know, I just didn't believe that she'd be in the role that she was in. Like, I just didn't feel like she commanded respect with her rebels.
Because they did keep doing their own thing, even though she was like, I didn't approve of this.
Yeah, and it just seemed a bit, meh. And I'm going to say I did like Stallone, I don't care. I'm a Stallone fan.
They got him just before he was big.
Yeah, I enjoyed his character.
Yeah, he was
yeah.
Good. Did you find that every time there was a resistance scene, it kind of just dragged? It just wasn't as entertaining as the race scenes.
No. And I got a mind blown moment during one of the resistance scenes.
Oh yes.
So it's not perfect. It's not like you can tell like they've full on ripped it off, but there's some influence from it. So essentially, Green Day's American Idiot music video is literally them in a warehouse, stood in front of an American flag, which I know in the video it's got 48 stars, not 50, to emphasise the American Idiot.
Yes.
And I mean, the green's going to be because of Green Day, but it still had the imagery of the resistance woman speaking in front of the camera and having the flag behind her
and the monitors
all the monitors. It had all the same feeling, and the fact that it was a warehouse and things like that. And as it was a very political album and song,
and the song talks about propaganda.
It does talk about propaganda, and that's all about it. So
Green Day are fans of Death Race 2000.
Seems so.
I mean, I could believe it.
Yeah, I could.
It is a cult film with a lot of followers.
We talked quite a bit about the hotel rooms, didn't we, Dan?
The hotel rooms, it was just a sports hall. I can appreciate a low budget. Right? But I cannot appreciate a low budget when the bedroom is in this huge room. It just isn't done well. Like, you could still use that huge room. Force perspective, change your camera angle, put it in so it still looks like a bedroom. Put up a false wall so it doesn't even look like it's that big. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't cost that much compared to the random shit that they put in there.
Including leaving the fire door in perfect view.
Yeah,
so you're
perfect view.
So you're like, okay. You know what I found odd about the hotel rooms is it's a double bed. For the driver and the navigator, so it's just implicitly assumed, they're going to sleep together.
Yeah, because they're all boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. So, obviously, they're going to be having the sexy times, which, again, just goes to show that it was all about BDSM, really.
So,
Dani, what did you think of the idea of getting points for running over different kind of pedestrians or members of the public?
So I was not aware that's what the film was about.
Dan had a complete misunderstanding of what the film was going to be.
Oh, right.
She thought it was going to be a race to the death.
That's what is in the remakes.
Which makes sense. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So you thought it was going to be like the remake.
Yeah, you see. When the first one happened, I literally went, what the hell?
Yeah, when the first guy got run over, was it the digger?
The digger guy.
The workman that gets cut in half.
And Dan was just absolutely in shock.
I was just like, what film are you putting me through? And then that's when my brain went,
like. I like this film. I am that weird person that likes stuff like that. So
It is fun.
yeah. I like the scoring. It took us a while to figure out the full scorage.
Yeah.
Because they tell it you very vaguely.
Whereas
Yes.
the sequel 2050
Yes.
does
It
really clearly.
It is clearer, yes.
Very interesting. The fact that babies are more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were confused by them having pit stops as well.
Well, it was a
Yeah.
long race.
So,
Well,
it's not about pit
stages.
stops, right? Because I understand pit stops.
Yes.
Watch Formula 1,
Yep.
right? Long race. They're all going to have pit stops. They're all going to start pitting around the same time
Of course,
because it's tactics and strategy. I understand that. My point was they're racing across the country.
Yeah, it's a big country.
It is a big country, but they are going to the exact same pit stops to stop at for the night is the bizarre point. Like, would you not think you'd go as far as you can go before you're tired and you go, right, and then I'm going to go to sleep wherever I can be?
I don't know, they've got some hotel sets lined up. You know, they've got to use them somehow.
They weren't hotel sets. It was a sports hall.
Yeah, you enjoyed Death Race 2000, didn't you? Because you were.
I did enjoy it. I'm not going to lie, I did enjoy it. It has made me want to seek out the Statham remake. 2 reasons. 1, I'll always watch a remake because, you know, it's made new. It's prettier for my eyes. I'm that kind of person. 2, it's Statham, and I do like Jason Statham. I do think he's a good actor for action films.
Okay.
I should emphasise that I'm saying he's a good actor for action films. I'm not going to say he's the most amazing actor I've ever witnessed. I'm just saying for his genre,
Yeah.
I do enjoy his acting.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
the Statham one,
we should point out, so there was the remakes, Death Race. It was just called Death Race, and there was quite a few of them, weren't there? Because the first one's got Jason Statham in. He's
Yes.
not in the sequels and prequels. There's like 4 of them.
yeah, so
Dani Trejo's in them.
So there's Death Race, which is a prequel to Death Race 2000, and basically it's a prison film with some car racing in it. Standard prison movie tropes. He gets framed for murdering his wife. He gets put in a cell with some neo-Nazis who want to beat him up straight away. Within 30 seconds, he's beaten them up. That's how
Nice.
hard he is.
Yeah.
And he's an ex-racing driver. They have this great idea. Let's televise these death races around the prison because it's on an old dock site. And it's pay-per-view, cable, streaming.
The prisons are privately owned, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they're all privately owned
Just gonna
corporations
say
run
something. I
things.
think I've actually seen it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I know when I talked to Rebecca before it that I thought I'd mix this film up, the remake one, with Stone Cold Austin's The Condemned. I thought I'd mix
Right.
them two up. But in reality, I think I have watched both because it would have been this right era for cheap DVDs that my mum would have bought to entertain my dad so that she could watch something else and then she could go, here, take that, go into the conservatory and watch something away from me. There you are. But the point is, I think I have technically watched them.
Okay.
I've definitely watched The Condemned. But now you've talked about the prison a bit more, it does kind of twig something in my brain a little
Yeah.
bit.
'Cause
Danny Trejo's one of the prisoners because he's in like 3 of them.
he's in the second and third one.
I think he's in the 4th.
One thing they have in common is that they're all building up to eventually Death Race 2000. And Frankenstein constantly changes different drivers. So Statham becomes Frankenstein because the original one or the one before him dies.
That makes sense, because like in the Death Race 2000, Frankenstein's meant to have had like a
Exactly.
different
Multiple.
arm and a different leg
he's not
and
the
things like
first.
that.
And then he says, nah, it's just a different guy every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense, especially with the whole like, oh, you don't want to see my you don't want to see my face under this mask.
Yeah.
It's hideous. And then he pulls off his mask. It's like, ha ha. It's just a normal face.
Luke Goss isn't though. He's covered in burns. He has a crash and gets blown up.
Okay. Well, after that, a few years later, they made an official, I'm going to put official in inverted commas, sequel to Death Race 2000 called Death Race 2050. Except how can it be a sequel because...
It's a remake.
Yeah, it's a remake because you put the film on and it starts and it's like Frankenstein and, oh, he's my best friend, I've known him very well, says the journalist, and he's our racer and he's going to race and...
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, how is this a sequel? Because this is undoing everything that happened at the end of the first
Yeah,
film.
and even
Yeah.
some of the
Because
scenes and set pieces are
exactly
identical.
the same. I mean, there's a lot of differences though. They changed up the races. Like, there's a rapper racer as well. And,
Yeah, and a religious fundamentalist.
Yes,
and there's
who has a
an-
cult.
There's a artificial intelligence car.
Yeah.
And Frankenstein's a bit angrier, but I'd say it was still entertaining. Not as entertaining as the
No,
original.
some bits were good. I mean, I like the stuff like all the audience watching via VR headsets. So they're
Yeah,
all
that-
just like
that's
passed
good.
out, almost looking on sofas watching, and it looks very reminiscent of a Black Mirror episode.
That sounds very...
Ready Player One.
Oh, well, actually, I wasn't going to say that one. I was going to say that one second. I'm going to say the
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy.
Yes,
That's
it's like
the one.
that as well.
So it's like Idiocracy and Ready Player One, I was going to say.
Yeah, because another thing they have is the navigators have cameras, so then the VR people can see Frankenstein up close. They have drones as well in 2050s, because you asked, while watching the film, say, wait a minute, how are they seeing these people run other people
exactly,
over? How do they know Joe ran over a painter or that Frankenstein ran over a builder? How do they know?
We don't see any cameras apart from those that are with the hosts.
With the hosts at the start and the pit stops, but in between.
We have to imagine that somehow cameras are watching the race.
Because, how would they know, about Nero getting blown up, trying to run over a baby doll, or Joe chasing that fisherman?
Yes, at least 2050 addresses that by showing that the technology is there and they can be filming the whole thing.
I think one of the best things in 2050 is the president is played by Malcolm McDowell, and he's really good in it.
He is.
Yeah, on camera he's got an American accent, but off camera he's just British, which just adds to it. And and also the president's in Beijing or somewhere.
Yeah, and originally,
President of America.
In the original, his palace is in Peking.
Yeah. Well, there was also a TV series called Blood Drive, which is apparently inspired by Death Race, but it sounds very different to me.
I watched one episode of that, and it was just rubbish. So rubbish, it was rubbish.
I watched an episode of that as well, and yes, I agree with you on that.
It was made by those people, the Asylum, who make rubbish films and pass them off as being deliberately rubbish, when in fact they are just rubbish.
Are they the Sharknado people?
Yeah, they're the Sharknado. They put no effort or money in, whereas Roger Corman may have no money, but he put effort and he finds talented people to make these films. People that go on to become megastars, like James Cameron, for example. He started as a set designer for him, and look where he is now.
So there were a lot of video games as well based off of Death Race 2000. In 1976, there was an arcade game called Death Race, which was inspired by the films and caused controversy because, the goal of the game was to run over these sprites. And they said they were gremlins, but I've looked at it and they look like people, let's be fair. Other games as well, like a Spectrum game called Maze Death Race in 1982, Carmageddon.
Oh, I used to play Carmageddon.
Which was,
fun.
I think, more inspired. There was also a comic sequel to Death Race 2000. Let's see, it was called Death Race 2020, and it was published in 1995 by Roger Corman's Cosmic Comics imprint. Written by Pat Mills from 2000 AD, and art by Kevin O'Neill. It only lasted 8 issues before cancellation, so the story was unfinished.
Oh.
But it was a direct follow-up to the film.
Yeah, I have to say the remakes are all kind of merging into one in my head. Just because they're prison films with racing in. It's trying to be something different, but it's not Death Race.
Well, that's the thing with the remakes. You look at pictures of it and they all do start blurring into both sets of remakes. And whereas the original, it stands out. It's very colourful. I remember you said, Dan, it was giving you a Wacky Races vibe.
Wacky Races.
In fact, there was even a Roadrunner bit with Matilda the Hun and that fake tunnel off a cliff.
Yeah.
I think that was the best thing the Resistance did.
The film, I don't know if you know, Dan, was based on a short story called The Racer.
I did not know.
Written by Abe Melchior. Is that how you pronounce it?
I'd go with that.
It's a short story. He wrote it for a men's magazine called Escapade in 1956.
Well, it's quite a while before the film.
You see, the film came out April 1975, which is a few months before Rollerball came out.
Yes.
But Rollerball had started filming before Death Race, and Roger Corman and they were like, oh, we want to make our own film like Rollerball, what can we do? And they were like, oh, there's a story called The Race, let's turn that into a film and add satire and stuff.
Yeah, the core of the stories there, the racer, the monstrous cars, the points for knocking over people, and even the racer, the main character, has some self-doubts about what he's doing.
I didn't like that so much the way it was written, because he was very, at first he's like, whatever, and this woman...
a kid gets killed.
Yeah, and this woman's having a go at him, and he drives off, and then he starts seeing the woman everywhere, like he's hallucinating, just becoming all, oh God, what am I doing? And it just feels a bit weird.
No.
I mean, it makes sense, though, because he's writing about like how it's actually hit him as a human being, the psychological impact of doing what he's done.
So how well do you think Death Race 2000 imagined the future, Dan? Do you think it's dated?
Can I answer? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. Yeah, some parts are okay, sure. Well, not dated, but the whole we've devolved into having this death race kind of thing. That was a bit asking for it a bit close to the future to say it's 2000 when it was maybe, what, the 70s? Come on now.
Because in the film it said, America collapsed in 1979, and what was it? They kept blaming it on the French, saying the French destroyed our economy and our telephone lines.
Yeah, that was a bit bizarre. But in some ways, I thought they got some of it on the money. And it sounds really daft that the stuff that is most prominent in my head is actually to do with Frankenstein. His medical treatments and stuff. Because, they're saying like an arm amputation, not amputation, transplant. And you think, oh, okay. But actually, yes, because there was a bilateral hand transplant done by a surgeon in Leeds. Like, what was it? I can't think, it was just before COVID or around that time. Okay, it's not quite the right year, but like I said to Rebecca, if they've got such a good surgeons that they can do arm transplants, they're going to have fantastic plastic surgeons who are going to be able to do decent skin grafts. And that does exist. The way medicine's going, I think it is covered very well for like 1970s. They thought about it and thought, actually, that is a believable... for me, it's believable, and it doesn't make it feel dated.
So it was good on the transplant surgery stuff.
And the fact that it didn't feel dated as well, because, like, there was no telephones, and I know that sounds really daft, right? You think, oh, no phones. But the fact that they didn't use landlines made it feel not dated, because nobody uses landlines nowadays. Like, it's very rare. Don't get me wrong, people do. There are people, I've still got one, but they're rarer, and we've only got it because you have to have it with your internet connection for us. But then no one was on mobile phone or anything, but it just didn't...
We didn't see people communicating.
Yeah, it was just... I didn't think about people communicating, because, again, it was a dystopia.
They were all watching television.
Yeah. And that's still believable today. Yes, we're watching it in different formats, but we're still all watching television.
I mean, we assume they're watching on television. We don't see people watching on television, but we do see crowds at the start and end of the race. We also see a lot of people just out and about, doing their normal day lives, working and stuff, or fishing, and going, oh yeah, I'm a big fan of you. And it was like, oh, you're such a big fan, but you're here fishing.
But I can believe it. Formula One. It is on for majority of the year. I will not watch every single race. Because if we watched everything, you'd be all weekend, because it starts Friday with qualifying, you've got qualifying on Saturday, then the actual race on Sunday.
But there's also people who are on the streets who seem oblivious, even though they should really know that the streets are going to be dangerous for the next few days. Like the builders, the painters.
Yeah, but who are we going to run over?
And it's part and parcel of the culture, because I've never seen the films that I'm about to mention, but this is the same process that always gets me with the Purge films. There's one night a year, every year, where you can just go kill people. Would you not just, like, hold yourself up in a panic room type thing? Would you not hold yourself up in
I think that's
and I know I haven't seen the films, and I know I think that's the point of it.
That.
But it's become part of the culture. So you just kind of got to go, okay, that's just part of their everyday life. It's not our everyday life, and it feels foreign and weird, but that is part of their everyday life.
Yeah, because they do seem to not be bothered, like the builders running away, not letting their mate know, get out of the way. Or you had those guys playing chicken where they're jumping in the drain and stop their friend from getting in. Or the nurses and doctors putting out the old folk.
Yeah, euthanasia day.
But I wonder, just with the construction workers, we don't know enough about that world. We do not know enough about why that race is happening. We do not know enough about the rules. Is it a case of, if you were to turn around and say, quick, run, Stallone's coming for you, would it be a case the other people get punished by the government? Is it a government mandate? Because it feels like it's a very government mandated thing, because it's all about, the president of the USA, he's condoning it all.
Yeah, and they take the widows onto the shows, don't they?
Yeah,
to talk.
and they're absolutely crying their eyes out.
And they're like, you've won a house, you've won a holiday.
And you've got this. Yeah, it's just things that we don't know enough about the world to comment. It's too vague.
The inspiration for Melchior's The Racer came from an experience he had while attending a local speed track race. And he says, hearing the crowd roar with enthusiasm after a particularly grisly smash-up, I realised the onlookers were not there to see who won, but who died. After that disconcerting experience, the story just seemed to pour out of me.
I believe that's just a human nature thing, and it's not just racing. Think of any sport. Just think of a sport. If you think of, like, rugby, you people who watch rugby generally you don't get much rugby violence. Why? Because the players are doing rugby violence, and there you go. Your spectators are enjoying the violence by watching. You get football, and there's no violence in football in the game, because if they break a nail, they're going, broke a nail, to get extra time. But it means that the actual viewers become violent. It's not even just like a British thing, it is human nature. And it's like when you see a car accident, when you see a car crash, you cannot take your eyes off of it.
If you go back to ancient Roman times, I mean, people watched the gladiators and all the violence of that, and people did die and get killed.
Yeah, I mean, even now, MMA fighting, wrestling might be pretend fighting,
Staged, but
right?
it's...
Yeah, it's staged. It's not pretend. They're still getting brutally fucked over by some of the things that are doomed to them. They do break bones. They do hurt themselves. But the crowd enjoy watching it. It's a soap opera fighting, and it's great. I think it's human nature to want to see those kind of things.
So were you surprised by how much you liked the film?
Yes and no. Again, like I said before we watched it, and as I've mentioned before, Formula 1 fan, I like racing, I like cars, I like that kind of thing. And I knew it was dystopian. We've already discussed I like dystopia, so I don't actually think it's a shock that I liked it as much as I did. I'm shocked I liked a film from the 70s as much as I did, is what I'm going to say. Because I find a lot of films from that era, I know you're all going to hate me for it, but I find them very dated and boring and shit.
I'm staring daggers at her right now.
Yeah, she really is. And I'm trying not to look at her at all. And it's not even like I don't like old films. One of my favourite films is like from the 50s. Some Like It Hot. Brilliant. I love some of like the original Centrinian films. I've recently watched the Margaret Rutherford, Agatha Christie's, where she plays Miss Marple. Superb. But the 70s, I don't know what it is, but I just kind of zone out and go, ugh. I don't know what it is about me, but it's just what I do. Sorry. But I'm not sorry.
So you're saying the 70s is the decade that films forgot?
Yeah, I hate it.
I think in some ways the 70s reflected the way the world was going, because you know, people lost confidence in leaders and politicians in the 60s.
Well, Watergate had been quite recent.
And it kind of culminated in the 70s of, especially American films, were just like, everything was doom and gloom and there was no positivity. You know, MASH, Midnight Cowboy. Star Wars is probably the only one that's opposite.
Of the films from the 70s I have watched, I can say now, on one hand, how many I've enjoyed. I liked Jaws, and I've liked Death Race 2000, okay? But after that, any other film from the 70s, I just think is shit.
We have to find some more 70s films for this podcast.
I do have something in mind, actually.
All right, tell me later.
I don't like the look
when
she's
Dani's
just
not
given
listening.
me.
So before we move on, I just wanted to mention what contemporary reviews and current reviews are of Death Race 2000, because at the time, contemporary reviews were mixed. People didn't like it at the time, so like you had Roger Ebert saying he was concerned that gratuitous violence was going to be viewed by children, which it shouldn't be if it's an 18, and others saying it became the very thing it was meant to be mocking. Whereas it eventually became a cult classic, and now its Rotten Tomato rating's 81%. Which is really good.
Yeah. I mean, just going back on the thing when you said about children shouldn't be seeing it, you do remember our parents, don't you?
Yeah. We would just...
Yeah. If we haven't mentioned it before, we'll mention it again. Our parents let us watch whatever we wanted when we were kids. They did not care. There was no censorship whatsoever.
I wasn't allowed to watch Exorcist.
Oh, fair enough.
It was boring, to be honest.
Mum just always said to me, if you watch a scary film, don't come running to me if you get scared.
Yeah, same.
It worked. It self-policed me because I watched one once that really scared the living shit out of me. I'm putting it out there. I was 15 or whatever I was. I don't know what year it was, 14, 15. We watched the Japanese The Grudge. Yeah. I shit myself watching it because your bed was no longer safe. I wrote a note in there saying, never let me watch it again because it was Rebecca's copy. And to this day, I still think of it at times and I think, my bed's not safe anymore. And I hate it. Yes, I'm a 31-year-old woman saying that. And I know what I'm like.
She made me witnesses sign it, not to let her watch it again.
Right.
Self-policing works, guys, and I'm agreeing with it.
Very good.
Yeah, the current consensus seems to be it's a fun, campy classic with genuine thrills and mindless ultra-violence.
I'd say that fits the description. Are we allowed to ask how many Danis she's going to award this?
I think so, because we're going to be talking about the next one. So yeah.
How many Danis out of 5 did you award this?
I have awarded this 3 out of 5 Danis. Now, it would have got a 4 Dani approval rating if the ending was better. But it was shit, so it got dragged down to a 3. Just saying.
Okay.
Heard it here first. There you go.
Okay, so I think it's now time to move on to our second film, which is Rollerball. Rollerball is set in the future of 2018, a world now run by corporations rather than governments, and all sport is banned with the exception of Rollerball, a violent ball game combining roller skating and motorbikes.
Directed by Norman Jewison, it is a US film released in the summer of 1975. Rollerball is based on the short story Rollerball Murder, written by William Harrison in 1973 for men's magazine Esquire. Jonathan E., played by James Caan, is a rollerball veteran and superstar player for the Houston team. Mr. Bartholomew, chairman of Energy Corporation and sponsor of Houston, wants Jonathan to retire. Jonathan resists, and the rules of the game become increasingly dangerous and violent in order to try and encourage Jonathan to quit. Rollerball is the first major Hollywood production to give screen credit to its stunt performers. The cast, extras and stunt personnel played Rollerball between takes as the game was so realistic. Apparently audiences loved the game action so much director Norman Jewison was contacted multiple times by promoters who wanted to buy the rights to the game, so real rollerball leagues could be formed. Jewison was outraged by this, as the entire point of the film was to show the sickness and insanity of contact sports and their appeal.
So let's return to a few days ago and listen to Dani and Rebecca watching Rollerball. Let's hear how it went.
So on to Rollerball next. So Dani, what do you think Rollerball will be about?
I feel like Rollerball is like a, what do you call it, like that derby, you know, the...
Oh, roller derby.
Roller derby.
Yeah.
That's what that's going to be about.
Like Harley Quinn plays?
Yeah, or like the film Whip It.
Whip It?
Yeah. It has Elliot Page in it.
Ah.
And it was Drew Barrymore and Kristen Wiig.
Ah.
Essentially it's about roller derby, girls league.
I didn't know there was a roller derby film.
Yeah, it's always really good actually. I really enjoyed that film.
Roller derby.
Yeah.
It's quite a violent game, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of it from the 30s and it was very aggressive and violent.
And that's the point, because I think Elliot Page's character's all like, oh, I can skate, and kind of gets into it, but doesn't realise how violent it is, and some of the other characters are full on bleeding, and just like, yeah, let's keep going, let's do it again, kind of thing.
So you think Rollerball's going to be like this?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think.
With the title reminding Dani of one of her favourite films, she sets the bar very high for Rollerball. The film's title is written in the Westminster typeface, a staple of sci-fi for decades, but now puts Dani more in mind of the past than the future.
Oh, that's very 70s.
What, the futuristic font?
Yeah. The 60s, 70s font. I won't call it futuristic.
It's meant to be futuristic.
Yeah, but it's not. It's literally like 60s, like, hippie kind of font.
Dani becomes very confused when things that really shouldn't be on a roller derby track begin appearing.
So there's bikes and roller derby.
Sorry?
There's bikes and roller derby.
Looks like it. But she quickly comes around to the idea and becomes fixated by the intricate gameplay of Rollerball.
So far, I like this game.
Do you?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
It'd be a sport I'd probably watch.
Yeah, because it's skating and motorbikes.
Yeah.
But the game ends, and as Rollerball champion Jonathan begins his hero's journey, Dani's attention begins to wander.
Announced all over the world. You're supposed to read this as part of the program.
Dani, you look half dead. What? Are you not into the film?
No.
Are you even paying?
No.
Oh, you're not enjoying?
No.
You're not enjoying Jonathan's discussions with everyone?
No, I'm zoning out. I may have fallen asleep at some points.
Dani's attention is momentarily grabbed again, as a rowdy executive party involves blowing up trees with a sci-fi gun for no apparent reason.
What? It's gun!
That's gun, I know, I don't know what's in it. Future gun.
I just don't get this whole bit with the gun and the people.
Surreal moments aside, it has become painfully clear that the quiet, soft-spoken and slow-crawling plot of Rollerball has completely lost Dani's interest. Attempts are made to keep her from falling asleep. Don't you like seeing all these cool buildings of the future?
No.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, that's you.
I like looking at all the buildings, like the headquarters.
Yeah, I've looked, I've seen, takes 2 seconds to see it.
What about Jonathan trying to get to the computer library?
I have no care.
You didn't even see that, did you?
No.
Oh. Well, wake up.
No. Put me something better on.
Okay. Yeah.
I only care when it's the spot.
The game returns and Dani re-engages. The opposing teams stare each other out with comical intensity during the corporate anthems.
What's funny? It's the way it's like... I like Moonlight.
Yeah. But sadly, during the Tokyo versus Houston match, the only character Dani cared about in the film is killed.
Oh, what's wrong there? I'm assuming that means dead.
Moon pie.
Yeah. I always assume the reds mean dead.
Definitely out of it.
Did you see the kind of punch he got back of his head?
Yes. Jonathan literally fights the system, and the breakdown of the computer causes Dani to have one of her own.
Negative.
I don't get it! I don't understand.
What's wrong, Dan?
I don't understand what's going on. I don't know how it makes any sense to the film.
What, this computer having a meltdown?
Yeah, I don't. I'm having a meltdown.
Or it losing, what was it, the Middle Ages?
Yeah, what? I don't know.
You're totally lost.
Yeah, I'm gone.
Dani survives to the end of the film with a dead expression in her eyes. This is going to be an interesting roundup. What did you think of Rollerball, Dan?
Controversially,
Yeah?
boring as fuck.
Really?
Yeah, I liked the rollerball bits, but the rest of it, I didn't care about the characters, I just didn't care. I've got nothing, there's nothing there that can make me go rooting for him. I don't really give a shit why he doesn't want to give it up. I don't really care about his life out of it. There's nothing that makes me go, I want to know more. It was like, just show me the rollerball bits, I'm quite happy with those.
You like the rollerball bit?
Yeah, but the rest of it, pile of shit.
What did you think of it, Dan?
Shit.
What?
She didn't like it.
I hated
It's
it.
a good thing I'm sat down over here at the opposite side of a room.
Why?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, John? No. Yes, I hated it. When we get to the how many Danis it is, it's purely for the
Is there any point asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. The scoring is purely for the roller skating, roller derby aspect of the game, the sport part of the game. I enjoyed the sport.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
love to watch that sport in real life. I really
Whoa,
would.
what's that say about you?
It says that I like death. No, it means I know. No, because it only progressively gets worse because they're trying to get rid of him, right?
Yeah.
Prior to that, it's just it's a bit
It is a bit
violent,
violent,
and they
yes.
get a few like things. But
Broken
again,
bones, that
yeah,
kind of
but
thing,
it's only
yeah.
like watching rugby. Let's be honest. I remember watching one rugby match and the guy was bleeding from his ear. Did he continue playing? Yes, he did. I'm just saying. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing.
Quite funny because when we did our background research on this, basically people liked the game Rollerball so much. I mean, firstly, the cast, crew and stunt makers, during the free breaks, they would play Rollerball. They enjoyed it that much. They loved it. So they'd be playing Rollerball in between scenes. Then afterwards, when the film came out, quite a few businessmen came approaching him saying, we want to buy the rights to Rollerball and make it into a real league. The director, Norman Jewison, he was horrified, going, no one should like this game. It's sick and violent.
He used violence to comment on the violence.
Yeah, so he was appalled that people were enjoying it, the actual game.
But it was great.
But it's-
like it's a whole thing. You've got two teams. They've got a race. They're getting a ball. Now you've got a ball. Now you've got to try and get the ball off somebody else. Now you've got to hold the ball. There's a rule of the rule that you've got to hold the ball up. Once you've got the ball, you've got to hold it up. You've got to hold it up so everyone can see it. And I absolutely love the fact that it's like, oh look, we're gonna get it. We got it. You've broken a bone, but you're gonna get back up and you're going.
When it goes in the goal, it makes a very satisfying sound. That
It's just-
dunk.
It's one of those ones where you could just quite happily watch it.
The rules were all properly thought out because when they were promoting it, they got James Caan, who played Jonathan E. They got him to talk about it on I think it was ABC World of Sports, and to explain the rules to viewers before the film came out.
Just gotta love it. The sport, top tier.
Did you recognise James Caan?
Nah.
The thing with James Caan is that in college he played football and basketball, so he was physically capable
Of doing it. That's why they chose him, because
exactly.
they needed someone who couldn't just act, but also be
a sporty,
sporty, realistically sporty, have the build for it, and look like he really could actually do what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was believable.
And
Yeah.
it's mad, the idea of like, let's have these guys on roller skates and we'll have some motorbikes as well.
I
It's
loved
like,
that.
what?
That was great. Oh, I loved it.
I mean, you look at early footage of roller derby from the 30s, it's violent, isn't it?
It's still violent.
It's still violent. Harley Quinn plays roller derby.
I'm gonna say it now, and like I said before, one of my favourite films is Whip It, and it's about a female roller derby team.
Whip It. So
Whip It.
it's not about northern racing dogs.
No.
I thought that when she said it.
It's not, yeah, it's not Whip It like that. It's Whip It.
Whip.
I say whip it. Whip it good.
Can I just say the reason why it's called Whip It is because it's called the whip is what they do.
Yes.
Because there's two of them will hold on to one of them behind.
Yeah, that's like the motorbike bit, isn't it?
And they'll go really fast, and then they'll throw the one in the middle forward so she gets whipped forward.
Yeah.
And it's all about that.
I liked all the stuff about like Jonathan E explaining to the rookies all how strategies and things like put your arm this way on the bike, not this way, so you get twisted.
Choke him out and
then
stuff, and
totally pwning the big guy who's coming behind him,
yeah.
and he's just like drops to the floor, and so he falls over. I did love all that stuff. It was really enjoyable watching the game.
Yeah, I loved that.
With bad people, evidently.
Evidently bad people.
So even like obviously the final climatic game where it's like there are no rules, it literally is to the death. That's one that made me uncomfortable watching.
Did not make me uncomfortable watching. But remember,
Yes,
right? No,
I know.
it was a double billing. Right, I watched them one after the other.
Yeah,
and Rollerball was second in my watching. And remember, I thought I was watching Death Race to the death.
Yes,
so now that something was to the death,
you got it.
That ticked my brain quite happily.
It was gladiatorial. It was bread and circuses. Jonathan E is a big sports star. He gets the women, he gets the homes, he gets the money, and obviously he doesn't want it. What do you think, Dani?
Because he just stopped caring with the women.
About it? As I said to Rebecca, I gave no shits about any other characters. Just zoned out. Couldn't care less.
You like Moon Pie?
I like Moon Pie.
But then he does get knocked out early.
Right, but Moon Pie was the best character. Gone. Even James Caan's character.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Jonathan, couldn't give a shit. And can I just say, guys, for who people are listening, it is Monday. I watched it Friday, and I can't remember much about the film. That just shows how much I zoned out.
She did.
Like, unless the rollerball bit were on, I did not give a flying fuck about that film.
Dan did not like any of the in-between stuff.
Oh, it was shit. I didn't see the point in it.
It's kind of thoughtful. He's contemplating the violence, and he doesn't like it, and he wants his wife back. He's not happy. He wants a better life, but he still wants to play the game. But then, of course, the corporation doesn't want him to because he's too popular.
Yes, because the whole point of Rollerball is to make people think being great and an individual is futile and that you will eventually be crushed by the system. Jonathan was getting too big, too popular, and so they had to make it harder, the game, so he would fail, and he didn't. And that's what the ending is about when the chairman guy walks out.
Because, obviously, people he answers to, he's failed.
Now, I understand what you've just said, but I think it fails for me, it coming across, because it's all right them saying, oh, you can't get too big for your boots and stuff, and blah, blah, blah. But what were the consequences? What were the consequences other than that? Like, what were the world consequences for the people in charge? Where did we see rebel groups?
We didn't.
Like, going, we want to be individual, we're going to push against the corporate. We never saw any of that side of it. So the end of it came to it, just him wanting to play rollerball and not being allowed to. And I just thought, oh, get over it. You're probably getting to the point where, you'd be like an athlete who has to retire anyway. So I felt very much like I just didn't care. I did not care about his storyline. I just cared about the sport.
Yeah, we never saw anyone else who, I mean, his old coach was talking about what things were like before.
Yeah.
Saying there used to be other sports like football and
exactly, that's another thing
basketball
that these films have in common. So Death Race 2000, it's the only sport because all of it was just too mundane. Even future sport, sorry to bring that up again, all the other sports collapsed. In Rollerball, everything just collapses, and just like Death Race 2000, the corporations run everything. There's no governments anymore.
When they're playing the corporate anthem, they're all stood there now. All I'm thinking is, what are they thinking when they're stood there? Like Jonathan and Moon Pie and that. What are they thinking?
Jonathan's clenching his fist and patting his leg every time
doing that.
He's getting tense.
I never really understood that part. My brain just thought it was zoning in for the game and just ignoring everything else.
I think he hates the anthem.
I don't think he hates the corporation. It's something.
Well,
he's
questioning his place in the world now.
Yes, he's questioning it, and he's asking for books. He wants to look at books, and everyone's like, "What do you need books for?
Yeah,
we don't have books anymore. Books are all gone. They're transcribed and put into a computer. That's only in Geneva."
He wants to know what the world was like before the corporation wars.
Yeah. All I've got to say is I feel, listening to you two talk about this, I feel like I am not intelligent enough for this film because I just didn't care.
I mean, you were confused by something that also confused John, which was the party scene with the gun.
Oh, what the hell's that about?
I thought that was pretty weird.
That about?
I think
I'll agree with you on that one, Dani.
I think he's trying to say because these party goers, they're just so detached from everything. Nothing
Of
feels
course,
anything. And they're
yeah.
all dressed the same. Their hair's the same. Their makeup's the same. And there's no strong relationships. The women are just passed around to the latest guy that the chairman say, oh, that guy can have it. So there's no proper relationships there. They're just... It's so superficial and surface level. There's no meaning. And going outside in that morning, shooting the trees and setting them on fire seemed to be the only thing that made any kind of meaningful connection to them. And they just found it funny. But they also didn't seem to think about the consequences of blowing up a load of trees, probably killing a load of animals with it.
And you see, this is why she's intelligent and I'm not, because I just went, what the fuck's going on? This is shit. Get me Rollerball back on, please.
Yeah, because just like you, Dani, when they're watching those game highlights after the party, they're applauding and laughing at all the violence.
Yeah. And your point.
Well, isn't that what people who watch WWE do?
I rest my case.
Exactly. I'm just going to go to WWE and MMA fighting.
It's like we all watched Gladiators back in the day. Well, we did. I know you didn't because you hate us because you watched Bugs, which was its
I
rival.
watched some of Gladiators.
We were a Gladiators house.
We're a Gladiators
I watched
house.
Bugs
We watched
and
Gladiators.
Crime Traveller
Even
for my
now,
sins.
at 31, I will turn around and go, Gladiator, ready. Contestant, ready.
Well, they've just announced they're
And
bringing
you
it
Bring
back.
it back, yes!
Yeah, we used to watch Gladiators, but now looking back at it, you read up on what happened to some of the people like Lightning and that who had life-changing injuries, and you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But at the time,
As a
we
child,
just
I
seemed
would not have known.
No. I mean, everyone at school watched it. I remember we used to get things like Gladiator annuals, and I think some kids had toys and stuff.
Yeah, I think we did action figures, didn't they?
They did have action figures.
And
They
playsets with the giant cotton buds.
Yeah, the giant cotton buds. I was going to say, it's that one that they
I
had.
remember seeing that in the Argos catalogue.
They even did a kids' version of Gladiators.
Yeah, I
didn't
think
know that.
Train to Win, I think it was called. Where the gladiator would mentor the kid. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. But yeah, people I've always liked this kind.
If Gladiators was to the death.
Well, it was in Roman times.
No, but he meant the TV show.
The TV show now.
No.
But that's the thing. I guess it is accurate.
It will be in 20 years' time.
Yeah. Well, dystopia, the world way it's going at the minute. Yeah. I can believe it.
Yeah, so we're talking about Jonathan and how he wanted to find out more. And Moonpire's like, why do you want to read a book anyway? Just ask if you want to learn something. Get one of the corporate teachers to tell you stuff.
Hang on, that is quite prescient. In fact, the film is set in 2018. Like,
well, in America,
Death Race 2000.
Does it actually say it's 2018 in the film?
In the trailers, it says in the near future.
Right, but does it actually say it in the film?
I'm not sure.
Oh well.
Anyway.
Did you recognise any other actors in the film Rollerball? Because there's quite a lot of British actors in it.
Because it was an Anglo-American production based here.
The Rollerball Stadium is in Munich, and it still exists, that stadium.
It was a basketball stadium built for the Munich Olympics.
Yeah, because it's the only one in the world, at least at the time, that was a perfect circle.
Cool. No, I didn't. I did not know any of the other actors.
Not even Bert's Quark.
No, I don't know what the fuck that is.
He was a Chinese-British actor.
He was the guy who was getting Jonathan, trying to get Jonathan to sign Moonpie to be turned off. But Bert Quark was in Banzai, he was in Last of the Summer Wine.
I'm just going to say this,
the
though.
Pink Panther films with Peter Sellers?
No, never seen them.
Okay.
But the point I'm going to say is, you were mentioning me in a very extreme small role, as if I'd recognised someone from such a small role anyway.
He's in a few scenes.
He's like in two.
I totally jumped when I'm like, it's Bert Quark, oh my god!
Yeah, no idea.
One I recognised was Shane Rimmer. He was the team's coach. He was the voice of Scott Tracy in Thunderbirds.
Ah, yes. That's the thing. I was constantly looking up people in this film because you're like, they're all in stuff that you've seen, like Doctor Who and Avengers and all kinds of things. And Thunderbirds.
Or they're not. It depends on who you're asking. Because two of you say that you know them all, and the other person saying they don't know them all. So, you can't just assume our listeners will be on your... I'm going to assume you all are as well. But some of you might be like me and oblivious and ignorant to all these people.
No, we're going to have to show some Pink Panther movies after this. Can we get that in some kind of sci-fi angle? Diamonds, lasers, I don't know.
No.
Oh, okay. Did it look futuristic enough?
Yeah,
they had
did it?
helicopters and...
Did you think the buildings looked cool?
TVs with 4 screens and 3
Yeah, what was that
small
about?
ones.
Even the computers and stuff. I kept thinking, what's the point? Why do you need 4 screens?
Because it's better than one.
Yeah, it's better than one.
It's better than one.
How many people do you know that have got at least 2 monitors?
Yeah, but I do different things on those monitors.
Yeah.
But they were just like duplicating the same picture of the same bloke.
Or sometimes close-ups were on the little monitors, but yeah, it was...
Also did you notice how, like, Jonathan, when he's going around his house, pretty much every room has TVs in it?
Yeah, I thought that.
So wherever he's going, he can still see the programme that he's watching.
It predicted the future quite well with that,
Feels
I
a bit
think.
Big Brothery, actually, you know, with 1984. And I don't mean Big Brother as in, like, the TV series. I'm talking about the actual George Orwell novel of 1984 and the fact that there's always a TV screen or camera that can see
Well, it made me think of that as well with the computers, you know, replacing books. All the books being basically typed up and into a computer and then burned or something.
Yeah, and
Destroyed.
if depending on your access, you can only have a summary of some books.
Yeah.
Especially if it's before the corporate wars, and they want you to only know what they want you to know. In fact, you know, we're saying about the fashion, the women being identical and looking the same. What do you think of the future fashions? Because, I mean, I really like those Rollerball t-shirts that the fans in the stadium were wearing. I want one. I want an orange one. I've seen them on Etsy.
I like the font.
So it's
the future
that
font.
font is well, it is future, isn't it? It's a great
No,
font.
it's not future font. I said this before.
It's
not
futuristic.
future.
I know
It
it's
doesn't
not-
even look
I know it's
futuristic to me.
Do you notice how they use escalators everywhere to look like the future?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just really like that.
Oh my
The
god.
escalators.
How old are you two to think escalators make
Is it-
the future look amazing? Like, fucking hell.
Even
my
Star Trek,
God.
even Star Trek uses escalators to look futuristic even now.
And automatic doors.
Yeah.
I really like the buildings in Rollerball, and they were buildings like the BMW headquarters in that in
it's all
Germany.
futuristic, modern
buildings.
Yeah.
They just took the logos off, obviously.
Modern.
But they look so cool.
Modern.
Yes, I'm doing it in air quotes. Modern.
So did it feel like the future, or was this more dated than Death Race 2000 for you?
Neither. It didn't feel dated.
It felt slow though, didn't it?
Oh god, it was so slow and boring. But slow and boring does not mean it means dated.
No.
It didn't feel dated. It just felt an alternative reality rather than a dystopian future. It felt like the 1970s had happened. So I suppose you could class it as dated, but it wasn't. It just felt like it was the time period. Actually, I wouldn't even say it felt 70s-ish. I'd have said it felt a bit 80s-ish for me. So it's not that dated.
Maybe it's what you're trying to get at is it's like cassette futurism. You know, the future, but an 80s, 70s version of the future.
Oh, like the whole steampunk kind of thing.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit quaint that they had like personal helicopters.
Because Jonathan is using
Yeah, but you
cassettes
see,
or something.
The personal helicopters
yeah.
make sense of like the 80s because
Yeah.
the 80s of just the spending and not caring and wealth and everything just being easy. For me, that's why it feels like probably 80s. The fact that they had the helicopters did not make me go, ooh, or it just made me go, about right.
You know when Jonathan doesn't go in the helicopter and he says, no, I'll travel with my team, do you think it's because he suspects there might be...
He'll have a crash.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah, I thought so.
I thought that as well.
I found almost disturbing was how even his ex-wife was just like, oh, Jonathan, if the chairman say you got to quit, you quit.
Well, like you said, everyone
Everyone just
works
buys-
for a corporation.
Everyone buys into that philosophy wholesale.
I agree, but I do feel like she wasn't saying it in the sense of just do as you're told.
No.
I felt like it was very much like choose your battles. Maybe that's not the battle you should go for. Just retire. Just retire.
Because they're not going to leave you alone, are they?
And you're not going to win, kind of thing. So just, is it worth it? Is what I kind of got the vibe from her.
Him being allowed to see her as well was what Bartholomew was thinking. It might change his mind. So, you know, she had orders. She really did care about him, but she had no choice.
And you notice how all the stuff in the house, all the products are orange, because that's the colour of the Energy Corporation.
That's the colour of the 70s.
That's the colour of the 70s, Rebecca.
Yeah, but it's also the colour of the corporation.
It's the colour of the 70s.
It is, yes.
And the team colour.
The team's orange too, yeah.
Do you know what it made me think of, right?
Go on.
And it's purely, going back to Formula 1, it just made me think that they were all like Verstappen fans and they were all like all the Dutch. That orange Dutch.
You know, when they were filming this, they were practiced on a flat arena.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
when they took them to film it, they were all falling over because it's that tilted angular thing,
It's a
isn't it?
slope, isn't it? And they didn't know.
And they didn't practice on anything like that.
So had to practice again.
I wouldn't take them that long to have
No.
adapted it to it.
But yeah, they really got into playing it though.
Yeah, and the audience extras really got into watching it because one audience... In the film, you do see them going crazy and stuff, shaking the barriers, climbing over it and going onto the arena. That would really happen. I mean, for real, they weren't meant to. The extras just went crazy. And
because it's a great sport and I can get behind it.
Yeah, they just went crazy for it. You know, just went wild.
Yeah, I agree. I would have been the same. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, admittedly, there aren't many made-up sports I can think of. Probably Quidditch is the most famous one, which I'd probably watch that for real. I know people do it for real,
It's
but
now called quad ball.
but without the flying, of course. But yeah, I just don't feel engaged watching sport, and obviously the violence of Rollerball kind of put me off watching that. Unlike you, Dani.
Is that why you didn't watch Gladiators?
I'm not sure. I just found it. I don't know. It just felt like it was catering to the lowest common denominator.
What a bird!
Not as bad as Ant and Dec. That kind of mindless
you're
ITV
insulting my
Saturday
family,
night.
you know that.
You are. I am so insulted. So
Welcome to the
insulted.
last edition of the podcast.
Yes, because I will have murdered John.
Rollerball. To a death.
Okay. Is there anything with the film that stuck with you?
Rollerball.
Okay.
Do you know what else really stuck with me? And I don't know what this says about me.
Yes.
The bit after the first Rollerball, when they're all in the changing rooms afterwards, and it's the fact that it just felt a bit, I don't know, but they're just all like relaxing, like posing, relaxing, and and they're all wet, and it was a bit like, all right, who's this aimed for?
Well, they did just show them all in the shower, all butt naked as well.
Yeah, no, but it was just I don't know, it was a bit like, okay, this is a odd scene, and the way like the guy from the corporation were talking, it was at that point I was like, where's this film going? And then after that I got totally bored with it, so there we go.
Did you know, Dani, that it was a remake in 2002?
I did not know.
It's also called Rollerball.
Is it any good?
And there is no.
It's got like a 3% Rotten Tomato rating, if that gives you a clue.
Have you watched it?
Yes.
Would you recommend it?
I was actually going to think, because I thought, because you only liked... Because
there's more sport, isn't
there's
there?
no satire in it. It's, it's all
I'm going to love it!
Yeah,
Basically,
it's all action.
it was plagued with production trouble, because the guy who made it, they got someone to write a script, and everyone was like, oh my god, this script is amazing, it resolves all the problems of the original film, this is great. And the guy who directed it up,
John
produced
McTiernan.
he was like,
Predator,
he's
Die
like,
Hard.
he's like, oh no, this is rubbish, this script, rip it up, don't want satire in it. And he wanted to make it like WWE, and I'm thinking
It is like
Gladiators
Gladiators
as well.
because all the plays have characters,
Costumes.
different helmets, like there's a jester, there's Black Widow.
So
and-
you are
and-
selling this to me something
Yeah,
chronic.
they're all wearing crazy costumes, and the arena's much more complex with crazy tunnels and things for them to crawl through. And
yeah,
stuff.
I want to watch
It's,
the remake. 100%.
I thought you'd
and
like
it's
it.
it's set in the present day in
Yeah.
sort of Russia, East Asia kind of area.
Yeah, so it's not in a dystopian future. It's just because in this version, Jonathan he was wanting to be an ice hockey player.
Yeah, that's right.
See, ice hockey, violent.
Yeah,
Another violent game.
Yeah,
And the whole thing is the people running it are trying to make more violence in it to get ratings because they want a cable deal.
they want a cable deal in
Yeah.
America, don't they?
Yeah.
Who else is it? Is it LL Cool J?
LL Cool J.
I love LL Cool J. Do you know what his nickname is?
He's not bad in it, is he?
No,
Rebecca?
he's good.
Do you want to know what it means?
What?
Oh, go on.
Ladies like Cool James. I learnt that from Ed Byrne.
I think I should show you Rollerball
Oh,
remake.
dear. I can't believe we're contemplating this because Rollerball remake, it's not a terrible film, but but like the Death Race sequel prequels, it's not memorable. It's not as thoughtful.
There was a lot of problems as well
so-
with production because apparently people
Reshoots
booed
and
it in
stuff
the
and- yeah.
people booed it in the test audiences, so they cut it down
Too
by half an
cerebral,
hour.
yeah.
They also covered up nudity in the final cut,
To
and they
get a
CGI
PG-13.
CGI'd the blood to make it look like sweat, and it's got this Henry Cavill no mustache effect. It looks weird, like wearing mascara
that
and
sounds
running.
so weird.
And-
It is
Blood
weird
looking
looking.
And there's one
Twerk.
sequence. It's not a spoiler, but there's this chase sequence at night time. And they've just put it all in green night vision for some bizarre reason.
Yeah, there's no reason.
It's
No
nobody's-
story
It's
reason.
nobody's point of view. Just every single shot is
Is
in night vision.
Night vision. Well, they filmed it originally, and no one could see out because it was night.
And they couldn't afford to reshoot it, so they just went,
Night
just stick a
vision.
green filter on it.
It was very odd. But that was one of the good parts. Oh, I quite like that
The
part
sequence
of the film.
was, but the fact
you've
that it was
sold me
night
the
vision
sequel.
was pointless. So.
You've sold me this weird. Is it sequel? Remake?
Remake.
Complete remake.
Remake.
You said you've sold me the
It's
remake.
also got Una, number one from Star Trek.
Rebecca Romijn Stamos,
Yeah.
as she was at the time,
Yeah.
I believe, playing a Russian
And
player.
there's a lot of stuff about advertising in it, like Jonathan will come off the track
very
to get a
present
drink,
day, isn't
and
it?
they're like, Jonathan, do it again. He's like, "What? I've just had my drink." And they're like,
No, and hold it like this.
Show the logo.
To show the
Oh,
logo.
yeah, I kind of like
Yeah.
something because there's someone else that does that.
On Jean Reno's in it
What
as
does
the
that?
Russian guy that created Rollerball.
Oh, he was familiar. He was in stuff.
Leon.
Yes,
the Luc Besson film.
Yeah.
Truman Show. They do it in Truman Show,
Truman
don't
Show,
they? 'Cause
yes.
they do
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
because Truman's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Why are you holding up the knives like that?
Yeah.
Who are you talking
Yeah.
to?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
I can't believe I'm
It
advocating
wasn't as
this,
bad as
but
I expected, because
No, I thought
3%
it'd be-
rating, you think it's going to be absolute.
Maybe our expectations were low coming into it.
Yeah, especially after the Death Race ones.
I mean, for me, I never go by ratings anyway. Like, I think ratings are bullshit.
Well,
and I think
yeah.
if you tell me any type of rating, I go, nah, don't care.
Okay. Yeah, so it was based on a short story called Rollerball Murder, written by William Harrison, who wrote the screenplay for the film. And this was also for a men's magazine called Esquire. 1973, though, so not quite as old as The Racer. I thought it was better than The Racer, that short story.
Oh, definitely. I mean, everything that's in the film is in the short story. He did a really good job.
Yeah,
Him
and there's stuff about rules and things. I like the bit because it talks about how there's some fans who are obsessed with the stats of Rollerball,
Yeah.
but they've never actually watched Rollerball. They just love all the stats, like most murders in one event, one match, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's
most
the thing I was like,
goals in an event, most whatever's.
I could get with the stats people for that. Yeah.
And I do like that it explains the different roles in Rollerball. It reminded me
Yeah.
of Quidditch a bit. You've got the clubbers, the racers,
Yeah.
the runners, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. Like I said, I like the fact that like someone would get the ball and they'd pass the ball to somebody and he'd be like, I've got the ball,
Yeah.
I've got the ball, I'm going to get the ball to the goal now. I
punch him in
like
the
that.
face, get the ball.
And it does make it clear about the rules, like how many times you have to go around. And the remake is clear on that as well, how many times they have to go around
Yeah.
before they can put the ball in.
Yeah, because it's not as clear in the original film.
I don't think I actually cared though, and I liked the sport. If I watched it more often, like got more games,
you'd
could
work
watch,
it out.
Then you'd probably work it out and be like, and I'd be into it. But yeah, as a first time viewer, my brain did not go, I need to know the exact rules of this sport. It was, this is an interesting and an enjoyable sport. Continue.
Yeah, Rollerball's another one that seemed to have inspired a lot of video games as well, with various names like Rocket Ball, Killer Ball, Speed Ball, Clash Ball.
I think there was even a Games Workshop tabletop game called Blood Bowl, which was American football, but again, big spikes on shoulders and helmets. Very violent game, which I presume was inspired by Rollerball in its aesthetic, because they wear spiked gloves, don't they?
Yeah, in Rollerball, he's wearing
helmets.
spiked gloves, which are the kind of things people wear at metal concerts and goth clubs like we go to. And those spikes don't do that. They don't, because he cut that woman's face with it. And I'm
it's a
thinking,
Oh, no,
film.
that was hilarious because it was just like you've literally just showed us a blunt spike, and now all of a sudden it's cut her.
I mean, everyone's spiky bracelets and stuff. They're blunt. They're flat-ended.
Yeah.
They're sharpen them.
They're not going to cut you like that.
Yeah, but don't show it us blunt first. At least make one look. Even just make one of them look sharp.
But that was something I found funny about if you watch old 70s and 80s sci-fi stuff. Not even just sci-fi stuff. They always like
street punks, gangs.
If you
and
look at
stuff.
films from the 80s, the bad guys are always punks.
Yeah, black leather,
Like
studs.
Police Academy or what have you. It's
Kind-
always punks.
Kind
and,
of that Billy Idol look, isn't it?
and they wear leather and the spikes, and it's supposed to make you look badass.
Because it does make you look badass.
Yeah, but it makes them the bad guys, whereas
Yeah, but it still makes them look badass.
yeah, punks bring down Western civilization.
So how many Danis do you give Rollerball?
Now, this is purely, like I said earlier, based on the sport of rollerball. This is why it's getting what it's getting.
Okay.
Now, if the sport wasn't as good, I'm going to be honest, probably a 0 because the rest of the film was utter dog shit. But I enjoyed the sport, and so therefore it's got 2 Danis for that alone.
2 out of 5.
Would you recommend that anyone watches Death Race 2000?
Yes, I would recommend Death Race 2000. I
But
would.
not Rollerball.
Oh God, no. Oh, even my worst enemy. No, maybe my worst enemy. I might tell them to watch it so they get depressed watching a shit film. But no, I couldn't subject somebody onto that shit.
So weird, because we really got into watching them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Death Race 2000 before. I saw it years ago, but
Same.
at the time, and this is why I chose these to pair these, is because when I looked up Death Race 2000, it was always Rollerball getting mentioned at the bottom. See also, Rollerball. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, Rollerball, what's that? I want to see that.
I've seen Rollerball a couple of times before, And it definitely is more thoughtful of the two films.
Yes, it was also the bigger budget film.
Oh,
but Death
definitely.
Race came out a few months earlier because Rollerball came out in June, Death Race in April in 75. And they've managed to get it out fast, I guess, because it was cheaper.
Corman always did turn things out cheap and fast. They said in one of the documentaries on the DVD of Rollerball that it was a big hit, especially in Europe. And one French cinema showed it for a year every week.
Wow. All I've got to say on the comment on, budgets is, my opinion is that a big budget does not mean you'll have a good film. The lower budget is the better film, in my opinion. Actually, it makes it worse. You've got this big budget and you come up with that shit. Like, you've wasted your money. At least Death Race 2000, it wasn't apologetic for the fact that it was low budget. It was very much like, yeah, we know we're low budget, but you're going to get an entertaining story out of it. Rollerball, it was just like, they wasted their money on setting 5 trees on fire.
Were they real trees?
Well, they look like real trees, and I'm just thinking, how sure I feel about you destroying these trees, setting them on fire.
Hopefully they've planted new ones. But one question I was going to ask you, Dani, Death Race 2000 is fun, but I liked how when they're racing, they speed up some of the footage because the cars couldn't really go that fast. And it's like a knowing wink because surely to a 1975 audience, it still would have looked sped up. People weren't that unsophisticated. It just adds to the silliness, the over-the-top appeal, I think.
Yeah, I think it adds to it. I like it. But like I said, it's very wacky races feel, so having that added to it helps.
Death Race 2000 was a good length because it was about an hour and a half to 20 minutes. It didn't outstay its welcome, whereas Rollerball at 2 hours felt a bit long.
It felt very long. There wasn't enough that made me actually care. And this is the problem with the film. I didn't give a shit about any of the characters because there was nothing that compelled me to give a shit about them. There wasn't enough background. There wasn't enough heartstrings. There wasn't enough information for me to go, I'm rooting for this person, X, Y, and Z. And I know that they did give you enough with James Camp, but I just didn't care for his character. Like, I just thought, give it up, man. Just retire. Like, you're the best. You'll be known as the best. Let other people play. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I didn't care.
Fair enough. On that bombshell,
I think it's time to wrap up this episode. So in conclusion, Dani loved Death Race 2000 but hated Rollerball.
Yep.
Bit sad you didn't like Rollerball, but you can't like everything, so that's how this podcast is going to roll.
Exactly. I'm going to like the things that are actually good and hate the things that are shit.
I think we may disagree there.
You're wrong. I'm right.
Second show, we've already challenged each other to a death match of Rollerball.
We hope you enjoyed the second episode of I Don't Do Sci-Fi. Do let us know what you thought. Our social media contact details will be at the end of the podcast. Join us next time on I Don't Do Sci-Fi when we're going to be watching Blake 7 with special guest Will Hadcroft. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to I Don't Do Sci-Fi. If you'd like to contact us or comment on the show, email us at idon'tdosci-fi@gmail.com, Twitter at I Don't Do Sci-Fi, on Instagram, I Don't Do Sci-Fi, or on Facebook, I Don't Do Sci-Fi. I Don't Do Sci-Fi was presented by John Isles, Dani Wray, and Rebecca Wray. The theme tune was composed by Steve Johnson, and the podcast was directed and produced by Kevin Hiley. Gonna be having the sexy times, which again just goes to show that it was all about BDSM, really.
On the moment of sexy times, okay, back to sexy times.
That was a strange line from your producer.